And now, time for an AVN special broadcast, exclusive one-on-one with President Teasoups and myself, Hippo. Teasoups, Madam
Hello.
President, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Very good, very good. So, obviously, you're here to give us a one-on-one exclusive, and mainly what firstly what we wanted to talk about was your current overhaul of the executive branch. We're gonna go through that. So mainly, first question: what are the powers of the new HSI that you're employing here?
So HSI is going to be basically like a quality assurance agency for the entirety of the executive branch. So they're going to make sure that not only the DHS agencies, but every single federal agency is up to our standards, is following all executive mandates, has no internal issues. They're not doing anything criminally, but they are making sure, like, say DSS was having some sort of issue. I cannot really look at DSS personally every single day to see this for myself. So HSI is going through and is checking up on each agency basically.
Okay, so who do you have in mind to run this new HSI?
Right now, we have a Melancholy, who was the former FPS deputy director, and he's been doing honestly a really great job. Already, he's enforcing EO5, which is the job limit executive order, and he's making sure that all of our employees are up to standards.
Okay, so moving on, how what kind of revamp have you done with the Department of Homeland Security, as you're reopening it and, hiring a new secretary?
Yeah, DHS has gotten the biggest revamp of the executive branch overhaul so far, I would say. They've had their powers expanded a lot, especially with the SEC HLS. FPS obviously was shut down. Coast Guard remains, Secret Service remains, and HSI has been reopened. And SWAT is now also under DHS, which has happened in NUSA a lot. I think typically whenever SWAT is under a department, it's always been DHS, and I've seen that as a pretty good strength for the department.
Okay, so a lot of our viewers may not be, and a lot of people in general, like, citizens, the average citizen may not know what SEC HLS is. Why don't you explain for our viewers?
Sure. So we have a new Secretary of Homeland Security right now who is Warlockings. Great, great individual. Previously, before HR 18, the Secretary of Homeland Security stood as the cabinet member who kind of oversaw domestic national security issues, and then they oversaw Secret Service, Federal Protective Service, Coast Guard, and that was basically it. At one point, HLS was also its own agency, which was kind of strange because they like didn't actually have a job. But what it's transitioned into now with the passage of this bill is the Secretary of Homeland Security is the chief law enforcement officer. So they are advising me on not only domestic security issues, but also law enforcement issues. They're advising me on agencies. They're giving me ideas for any mandates or orders that would spread across the entire federal government. They are the person who is making sure that every agency, not just in the Department of Homeland Security, is doing well. So they still are overseeing Secret Service, Coast Guard, and they have like that quasi-military role within the Coast Guard, but it's been revamped to be honestly a beefy cabinet position.
Okay, so many people have been, writing into us asking about who is Warlock and why did you decide to pick him as the DHS secretary?
Warlockings is someone who applied during my original transition period. He applied for the Department of Homeland Security, and we chose him to be the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. And when he was working under Colton, the most recent secretary, Colton had to take a bit of an LOA, and Warlockings really truly stepped up and fulfilled that role of secretary while he was gone. He had Colton's recommendation fully. He had my chief of staff's recommendation. I've known Warlockings personally, and he's an extremely hard worker, and so I knew that he'd be great for the job.
Okay, so we're gonna move on here to the G11 last week, the G11 summit. So, what initiatives were discussed, and what kind of initiatives did you propose to the leaders at the G11 summit?
So this was a summit brought about by the UK, who wanted to speak about, because our UN is obviously new, and two of the bigger nations that started it are NUSA and the UK. So they wanted to discuss how we could further the UN, how we think the UN is doing so far, and just overall, it wasn't really specifically country to country, but more so how can we all band together and make this UN great. So some of these questions were talking about the development. We have a new General Assembly Hall coming out at the end of this month. Some of these questions were on recruitment, and also we have a newly funded IMF, which is basically like an international bank, and we intend to fund starting nations. So any individual who wants to make a quality row nation can receive funding through the IMF and get the support through our UN to do that. Because if you look at the trend of ronations for the past, I don't know, 10, 12 years, we have seen a sort of downhill climb. We've seen not as many nations being created, not as many active UNs. It's hard to find countries nowadays as well. And I think it's because row nations in general haven't really modernized themselves. We are still kind of an outdated genre, while the rest of the platform of Roblox has modernized. They are way beyond our time, and we have to catch up to that if we want to stay alive.
Yeah, I think that's some really great comments on that because I have noticed that many of our viewers have been writing into us talking about how Row Nation and the UN really need to be expanded. I think those plans for the UN are going to be exciting a lot of people here in Noosa. Um, all right, so now we're going to talk about a more uncomfortable topic going around DC right now.
Okay.
So there's a battle or fight or whatever you may have it between the DC Metro Police and the FBI. How are you and your administration going to respond to this, and what kind of steps will you be taking to try to mitigate these infighting between federal and local law enforcement?
So we obviously had a much harsher response at the start of this. You know, we declared this like a full insurrection. It wasn't a civil war, but there was fighting between the municipal departments and the federal government for about a week-ish. And then the mayor and I and other members of both governments signed the Evergreen Accord, which kind of called this off. We said, like, we'll give you guys DOT. You guys are going to disband your militia. Like, we have to live peacefully. We both share this city, right?
Yeah.
And it is true that I think even since that accord has been passed and supported by both governments, there's still rogue individuals within both sides. It's not just municipal. But I think specifically we've seen MPD being used as a criminal underground team with cuffs. And that's just, honestly, it's unacceptable. That's not what the agency is meant to be. And don't think going about it how we did the first week is going to solve that. You know, our agencies don't want to be fighting at MPDHQ for 4 hours. We cannot do that for 3 weeks straight, honestly. And so I mean, we put down the individuals who do rise up, and my government has been in contact with the new MPD IA, and I know that their
Mm.
IA actually has been taking initiatives to ensure that their officers aren't going rogue on team or anything like that. I've also seen moderation has been getting involved recently because you cannot have an individual with cuffs running around and arresting half the server. That's not insurrection roleplay, that's just going rogue. So we're coming about it from a more pacifist stance, I guess. I don't think that just shooting them is going to put it down. The one agency, though, that has been committed to protecting their grounds and firing back when fired upon would be Bureau of Prisons and Marshal Service. And they've been doing absolutely wonderful, making sure that our prisons stay safe. So shout out to them.
Yes, because I was going to bring that up. That is a good point. We here at AVN did have a live coverage. One of our correspondents were actually in the battle zone. Um, it was like a mini war zone at the federal prison on the 1st of January. Um, what do you have a comment basically from the White House on how the FBI responded to the MPD raid on the prison, those rogue individuals in MPD, as one MPD spokesperson claimed, on how they spent 4 hours raiding the MPD headquarters and also were cuffing people and arresting people at spawn.
Yeah, so I've seen it as a trend within some individuals in MPD. They like to go on the radio and say like, "Oh, Secret Service is rogue. Like, raid the White House, capture them." And I mean, obviously that's not true. No entire agency is going rogue, especially not in the federal government, obviously. But in response to the prison, I've fought alongside the DOJ agencies protecting the prison many times, and they are not the offenders at all. They are simply defending their property. They're making sure that MPD is not coming in and unarresting. They're making sure MPD is not just running in and shooting. The federal government has been basically ordered to take a defensive stance throughout all of this, and that's what we continue to do.
Okay, wonderful. So next we're gonna move on to a little initiative. It's a little more of a silly topic. A little initiative that you started to try to help NUSA really come together as a community. And I think it's a really wonderful idea to try and help people to not be so hostile towards each other. So why don't we talk about this new acronym that you've come up with called PISS?
Yes, PISS, the PISS
Am
Initiative. Thank you, Snowbleed.
am I
Thank you,
allowed?
Snowbleed. The
I'm
PISS
you. I'm
Initiative was started by this administration to spread positivity, inclusivity, safety, and security throughout this community. You know, we see too much negativity, too much toxicity between members when if you want to be cheesy, if you want to be corny about it, like we all are congregating as one community to ensure that NUSA can continue. We should all have the same goal in mind, which is to progress NUSA. And I think that's where politics come in, because people have different opinions on how to progress NUSA. But I obviously started PISS as a joke. I think it has kind of evolved since then. I mean, every daily you're reminded of the PISS initiative, right? But
Absolutely.
truthfully speaking, I think it's just a message towards progression.
Wonderful. And finally, what are your plans going to be now that we're moving into 2025?
Well, I think that HR 18 has a lot of stuff that we have to enact and see it through. It was probably the most progressive bill that I've passed in my entire presidency. It's like what double digit pages. It's a beefy bill, and now that I've done that at kind of the start of my second term, we just have to see it through. So HSI has been established, and something that was also within the bill, besides DHS, was the Treasury revamp. The Department of the Treasury does not exist anymore. It's been reformed to be the Office of Management and Budget under the White House. And overall, like changes like this and the DOT change and DHS, it's all because I believe there's a problem with redundancy and ambiguity within some parts of the government. And when you have like 15 law enforcement agencies, you can't ensure that they're all going to have these like high numbers. I can't be mad at Finson when they have two people because they're competing with 13 other agencies that have a higher purpose. You know, if you were to choose between Finson and Secret Service, most people are going to choose Secret Service. And it sucks for the agency, but I don't think we have the numbers to support the plethora of departments and agencies that we've had. So going into 2025, I would say the main goal is sizing down the government and ensuring quality over quantity.
Yes, wonderful. Any
Hippo, if I may,
yes,
it's
yes.
Oh,
What do we have here?
President Teacup. You're trying to compartmentalize the agencies. You're trying to compartmentalize SF and SWAT. D-
what do you mean?
You're trying to compartmentalize SF and SWAT. Am I incorrect in my statement? You're trying to
Uh,
bring them into one agency. Am I incorrect?
Um,
no, that's
Is
incorrect.
that incorrect? Okay, please, if you may.
So SWAT was moved under DHS, and SF has been reworked kind of back to their purpose as they were at the start of my term. We tried out something at the start of my first term, I mean. We tried out something a little bit different this term where SF was a more DC based agency. We thought
Mm-hmm.
about putting it under DOD as it's been in the past. It was
Mm-hmm.
weird. So
Mm-hmm.
SF is really going to be like your hardcore clanners. These are the actual top fraggers. These
And
are the
who are they?
people
If I may
who not
interrupt,
miss.
who are they under? Who are they under?
They're an independent agency.
They're an independent agency. Okay, so
That is correct.
SWAT is under DHS and SF is independent. Okay,
Yes,
that correct? Okay.
that is correct.
Do you believe? The Law Banana? They've received reports that SWAT has acted rogue under your term.
Hmm.
What do you have to say about that?
I've never seen SWAT go rogue. Not
You've never
once.
seen SWAT
okay,
go
Actually,
rogue?
well,
actually, it's been a big highlight that we haven't had any big admin abuse or big like rogue occurrences during my entire presidency. Not once,
Hmm.
by the way.
So the commander of SWAT, one unnote, never got banned under
He
your
did.
presidency. He did. Oh
Got
wow!
blacklisted for
And
baseless
he never tried
accusations.
to admin
okay,
abuse
well, thank
SWAT
you,
under your
Snowbleed,
presidency.
for coming on in here.
He
We really
didn't.
greatly appreciated that.
This
But
president is a.
so thank you very much, Snowbleed, for your contribution to this one-on-one here. Keywords one-on-one. Um, anyway, so our fashion analyst would kill us if we did not ask what you were wearing today.
Oh gosh. You know, I've been trying to decide what era I'm in. I guess I'm in my like, I don't know, kind of architecture era. I don't know how to describe it. I've got this like black fur cape, which I thought was pretty cool. I had to cop it. I got the designer shades on the head
Oh yeah.
because we're indoors, but I needed an accessory. I have the double chain cross chains, which I always wear. And then we got the long black jacket, black shoes, black dress, all black. It's a look.
Oh
Blonde
yeah.
hair, obviously.
Obviously, yes.
And the
Iconic
chill
blonde hair.
face. I
Yes.
always wear the chill face.
Iconic blonde hair. All right. I think that is gonna be it for today's interview.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really great.
Of course. Thank you all for tuning in to AVN Special Edition coverage with Teasoups.